Chris, and here today I'm testing the a7III, Sony's brand new full frame mirrorless camera. I'm here with Renan Ozturk, one of my good friends. We're gonna fly over the Big Sur coast, which I'm super psyched to share with Renan because this is kind of like my old stomping grounds, one of the first places I ever flew and took pictures. And one of the things I think I look for when shooting a camera like this, especially in the air, is you don't have a lot of space. Having a big battery is critical. I'm gonna probably be using like the 16 to 35 and maybe the 24 to 105. What's your go-to lens for shooting in the air?
Yeah, I've just been using the 24 to 105 mostly, just because it's so hectic, especially in these small planes, to be changing anything.
To be swapping anything and trying to, like, you know, grab a long lens or something. But yeah, Renan and I have been able to really fly all over the world, Iceland together, and he just got back from New Zealand flying. I was in New Zealand earlier this year, and I think both of us have realized that aerial photography is almost in many ways not so much a passion but an obsession. So being able to see these landscapes in a way that you've never really seen them before is probably, to me, one of the most exhilarating things ever. So I'm psyched to give this thing a test run and see how it does. That was crazy. So first impressions, we literally just got out of the plane. We flew for an hour and a half, and it was some of the best light I've seen in California for flying. It was wild. I've never really used a camera that was, you know, supposedly entry level that performed that well. I mean, the A9 has like superior autofocus, insane sensor, and this is basically the exact same sensor, same autofocus. And I don't know, for me, I was using autofocus continuous wide. What were you?
I was on the same. I couldn't tell a difference from the R. It basically seemed like the same camera.
Yeah, it was crazy. I feel like in some way too, just the fact that this is supposedly, like you said, like this kind of entry level camera, but the way it was autofocusing and functioning up there in the air was amazing. I think one thought I had, we were talking about before, was because this camera has, you know, a smaller pixel size, you can kind of crank the ISO a little more, and I think that it'll yield some better results than maybe the R3 would, because it's got such a massive megapixel, you know, like rating on the sensor. So I cranked some of my images to like higher ISOs to see how it would perform. What were you shooting at mostly?
I was on auto ISO, but it was going all the way up to 6,400.
Yeah, that's insane. What lens were you shooting on mostly?
I was on the 24 to 105, and then I switched over to the 16 to 35.
I was shooting mostly on the 24 to 70, 2.8, and just like zooming in and out. And yeah, with that, I actually normally don't shoot autofocus continuous. The camera was just set to that, and so I was kind of just using it. It was so nice because it was one less thing to do. You know, it would just bounce back and forth. I don't think it dropped focus once until I was shooting out of the plane window. Dang, I mean, it's such a weird thing because now the cameras are all same size, similar rating, like, you know, in terms of their specs are so close that it's hard to know where this one would fit into like the R3 and the A9. But I guess the fact that like the price point is so much lower and it has like almost like a perfect marriage of ISO to megapixel, like I feel like in low light scenarios where you don't really want to shoot the S because you still want a higher, you know, quality picture, it's kind of like a killer camera for that.
I want one as a backup.
I want like two or three. And it doesn't, you know, the A9 too, it's like you're you know, blasting at 20 frames a second, and the camera's expensive, you know, it's a good, but also like it's a professional like sports camera, where this thing you can still shoot fast. I mean, it's shooting what, like 10 frames a second or something like that, and it still felt like that was like more than enough, you know, that I needed, I guess.
I was really impressed. I felt sturdy, just holding it the window wouldn't open all the way, so we were holding it underneath the window. And you've got 100-mile-an-hour wind blasting into the lens. Kind of worried that the whole lens was going to shear off, but it was solid.
Yeah, that's like honestly one of the most stressful things, putting your hand out there and hoping your hand doesn't bend or break or anything like that. And thanks for joining us. I'm Chris, this is Renan. We're in Monterey and we're psyched to be able to share some of our photographs from the a7III, and we're gonna get back in the air a couple more times this week and hopefully get as epic conditions as we just did.